then let us jump right into that. The first one being explainers shoot high, aim low.
Yeah, this one was I feel like maybe we should just read it.
I also summarized it last week last episode because we were talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson was on Sam Harris's podcast, and Harris said, "I think your book would be perfect for like a young adult who comes to science." He's like, "That's fun to hear because I wrote it for adults because adults told me that like they don't feel like they feel like it's written for kids if they understand everything in it."
Right. Yeah.
So it's like,
if I'm not confused, then
if I'm not confused, this must be too easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently, I mean, the short version is basically like you're explaining something to somebody, or you're drafting an explanation you're going to give to somebody. You're like, all right, an elementary explanation of this will hit the layperson just fine, and it's too dense and confusing or over their head, or you didn't cross enough inferential distance. And so like if you're aiming for high schoolers, you're not going to hit high schoolers. Aim for like fifth graders and you'll hit high school.
Yes.
Or even worse. What were you going to say, Ineos?
Oh, well, the anecdote, that's what I was looking for. The anecdote that he leads off with is that he was talking to a scientist who wrote an explanation in his field aimed at like a very low technical level. Like he thought he was writing basically for reporters, maybe some scientists that have no knowledge in this field. And it ended up being his most popular paper within his field, cited more than anything else he'd ever written. And Eliezer said he had the same thing happen when he wrote an intuitive explanation of Bayesian reasoning. He was aiming for basically elementary school, which he admits now was kind of dumb because he was using words that elementary school students probably don't know.
He had assumed the reader knew what a probability was.
Exactly, yeah. So he's like, okay, maybe that was dumb of me to assume this is aimed at elementary school. But point is, he was trying to write to an elementary school level, and it ended up being really popular among undergrads and other people who are, significantly older than elementary school.
Well, specifically, he says, let me find it. I regularly get fan mail from formerly confused undergrads taking statistics classes, and journalists and professors from outside fields.
Yeah.
So, like...
Not elementary schoolers.
Yeah, but I mean, actually, like, undergrads taking statistics classes, so, like, not even, like, people who are actively trying to study this, like, oh, this is a great explanation.
Yeah.
Which I felt that way about. The next one, we don't have to jump to it yet, but... Double illusion of transparency.
Yeah, he did say that he wants to note that this is not because your audience is more stupid than you think. It's because your words are far less helpful than you think. Yeah. This all ties back to the previous sequences that we talked about, where the
inferential distance thing,
inferential distance, illusion of transparency, self-anchoring bias, all these things where you already know what you know and you assume much more.
If I was explaining this to me, I'd understand it.
Exactly.
That's basically how it's going, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it was no one knows what science doesn't know. It starts off with like, I tried to do this real simple explanation, and it turns out that you didn't get it.
Well, should we move on to the next one then?
I just was gonna say I thought that it was a great explanation.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, though, yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it. Was there more to say? Explainers. That kind of summary.
Yeah, it's a brief one. The follow-up that I like is the double illusion of transparency, which my one-sentence summary is where Eneasz says something to me, I think I understood him, and he thinks I understood him, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Right, okay, yeah.
And, well, no, I'm sorry. The I guess the last part of that is, turns out we're both wrong.
I think
we both misunderstood each other.
We were just speaking before the microphone started rolling about how you nodded at a lot of things that Brian said, and Brian thought that meant you understood, but oftentimes nodding and understanding are not correlated.
With me, they're often anti-correlated.
Yeah. In this sequence, he says, I thought that if I said, hey, guess what I noticed today? Bayes' theorem is the secret of the universe. And someone else said, yeah, Bayes' theorem is the secret of the universe. Then this is what a successful teacher-student interaction looked like. Knowledge conveyed and verified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did say that, like, it started out with them talking about Bayes in a IRC, and the guy didn't quite get it. So he took it to a private chat room, explained the immediate prerequisites. Guy didn't get that. Explained the prerequisites of that. Guy didn't get that. So we went all the way back to the foundations of Bayes' theorem, and turned out that the guy had issues updating probability that a fruit is a banana based on observing that it's yellow. And
he keeps mixing up the probability of banana given yellow and the probability of yellow given banana, which I thought was hilarious. Because, are all yellow things bananas? Well, I have one example.
So, yeah, and this one sort of comes out in, is this the one that comes out in, yes, I think it is. This is the one that comes out in favor of university schooling, because
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
yeah, because
But,
it says that professors have the advantage of being able to directly query their audience right there in the room and, get feedback from them as they're talking.
pull out the...
It says, this may sound odd, but until that very day, I hadn't realized why there were such things as universities. I thought it was just
Right.
rent seekers who'd gotten a lock on the credentialing system.
Which, like, yeah, mostly. But,
Yeah.
I've got this like awesomely romanticized view of university. I think of the academies that like Aristotle put here. So like that's just I feel like this. Oh, this is scholarship. This is pursuit of reason and knowledge. I feel that when I'm on a campus, even though I know it's just like we're here to collect your money and make you watch football games.
Yeah, well, actually, like, yeah, I found it. I hadn't realized why there were such things as university. I thought it was just rent seekers. Why would you need teachers to learn? That was what books were for. But now a great and terrible light was dawning upon me. Genuinely explaining complicated things took months or years, and an entire university infrastructure with painstakingly crafted textbooks and professional instructors. You couldn't just tell people. And, like...
Didn't we? I think it was just 2 episodes ago that I came out saying that if someone was really dedicated and wanted to learn something, that they could figure it out. They
Yeah.
could learn most things in a matter of months or a couple of years at most. It sounds like Eliezer disagrees with me here.
Yeah, I think that doesn't describe most people, though. Like, in order to understand a really complicated subject, quantum mechanics or whatever, I think that you do, if you're like a self-learner, autodidact, like the thing that you have to do is honestly watch a bunch of YouTube videos of different people explaining things different ways, or read a bunch of different books, and like you start to be able to build a complex model by examining it from different sides, so you know what shape it is. It's a weird metaphor, but
No, that was a good metaphor.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect.
Okay.
I am the kind of person I learn at least 10 times faster if I'm sitting talking with somebody for 30 minutes than if I'm off watching videos. Because I can ask a question and like,
Yeah.
oh, that clears it up. I don't have to watch this 90-minute YouTube video to find the answer, or only to find that the answer wasn't in it.
Yeah, I think like that's what I was trying to get at, where it's like you totally can learn quantum mechanics on your own. It's just going to be a lot harder because
Yeah.
you're the one that has to find and curate the information, and you don't know what you don't know. And you can't question the guy on YouTube. It maybe could, but it would be harder. And you can't question the textbook.
I guess he's saying genuinely explaining complicated things took months or years, and he bolds explaining to put the emphasis on it. I think that's probably more true, because when I made my statement a few weeks ago, I was thinking that genuinely learning something doesn't take very long. And I think there's a distinct difference between trying to explain something and trying to learn something. When you're trying to explain something, the other person is usually far less engaged and isn't doing a lot of their own work. If you're really trying to learn something and you're putting in, hours every day for weeks at a time, you cover a lot of ground fast. And if you have like a fucking teacher to help you out, ask questions, coach you, good lord.
Yeah, I think that'd be my ideal learning environment. Well, that's kind of what I try to do at work. When I can grab somebody who knows what they're talking about, I try to leash them down for 20 minutes and explain something to me.
Explain this like I'm 5, please.
I literally wrote that sentence today or this week. For someone who's ostensibly paid as a web developer, I don't know how the internet works well enough to fix internet related problems. So like we have a lot of issues with domain names not pointing where they're supposed to, with certs not validating properly, and SNI and SSL and lots of other TLAs, 3-letter acronyms.
Lots of acronyms.
Yeah. And so I put in this chat and I was like, all right, look, I'm trying to solve this problem. If one of you 2 experts can jump in and just explain, and I said, ELI 5, for 20 minutes with me, I'll get a good start on this. And that's really like that. I think that's the main thing that I get out of like an educational system that I don't get out of just having all the resources in the world.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what part of my problem to start Googling first.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know yet, and then
Right,
you have to dig through all this stuff to get the prerequisites that you need, and there's a lot of this stuff that's superfluous to what you actually need to solve. But like you can't pick and choose what you like read in a textbook, because if you don't know what you don't know, then
In an idealized educational environment, somebody would give me like a stack of abridged textbooks and say, read them in this order, right? And you're like, yeah, you can skip this part, read the highlighted sections, and then that would be it, right? And then maybe they're there to consult, and that's kind of what college is,
I wanna.
if you squint.
I think that's, yeah. I think that's the difference between, like, because Eliezer is, his goal, which he is telling us in these posts literally, is to explain what AI is to people and why it's dangerous, which is a very different thing than, like, if I wanted to learn how to start programming an AI. Like, I mean, obviously, I couldn't learn that since no one knows how to yet, but explaining to a general audience, this is what it is, and this is why you got to worry about it, is a just completely different task than trying to learn something because you're interested in it and you want to do it.
If you're, yeah, also something that somebody, in order to get a passing grade, that person might not like actually care about the thing.
That too.
So
yeah.
you do have to also engage them. Like there's small. Real quick, I want to actually like suggest a thing that reminded me of Derek Sivers, who I love. He's like entrepreneur who writes cool books and stuff. He has a thing called the Do This directives. Just post a link, I guess, because the URL's bizarre.
We'll just post a link.
sive.rs/d1. What is .rs? Does he have like a Russian, I don't know, URL? Anyway, we'll post a link. But the whole thing was he's trying to figure out how to compress information, or as like an experiment. This is just a free thing that you can read, and I highly recommend this and all of Derek's stuff. But it has things like how to be useful to others, how to get rich, how to thrive in an unknowable future, and like each of them just have a very, like, he's tried to cram all the stuff he knows into the smallest amount of time, and interesting.
That sounds maybe we could do a show about this.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
But sorry, that just reminded me of that.
And this is where we get the secret reveal that all along the reason he's been writing these sequences is to teach people about AI, and he has had to go way, 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 way back to the beginning, because apparently just going to the beginning isn't enough. You got to go back to the beginning of the beginning. And
when I read this, I laughed because I was like, you can't just tell people about AI. You gotta trick them into thinking they're learning rationality and then slip it in there. In fact, you can't even do that. First, you gotta trick them into thinking they're reading a Harry Potter fanfic. I was like, wow, actually, like, took his own advice. I don't even know if that was like sort of his intention for writing Methods of Rationality. If he'd like sort of internalized this, it was.
Well,
yeah,
okay. Allegedly,
he said it.
Allegedly, on our last episode, he had said that it was he just wanted to write a Harry Potter fan fiction, and I'm like, I just don't believe you.
I mean, I'm sure he also wanted to write a Harry Potter fan fiction, which is why he chose Harry Potter.
But he used the word "just," I think, and I'm like, I don't think that was just it.
No.
But maybe, you know.
I remember him saying that he was trying to write. I think he was trying to write the sequences or the book that was supposed to be.
Yes.
Yeah, that was it. He was originally trying to write a book about rationality, and
that's where the sequences
realized that like he could post in this sort of like serial way and get like and keep his momentum up. But like when he was trying to sit there and just put it all down into a book, the motivation was hard. And then it was even easier when he was like, what if I could just make this a Harry Potter fanfic? Like that was sort of just a getting unstuck from writer's block experiment, which worked out really well.
And I mean, so much of it has to do with feedback, because when you're writing a book of any kind, you get no feedback
you're
for
sitting in a room for hours by yourself. Like, man, I hope people like this.
Every day for at least 6 months, usually 9 or more. And yeah, you hear nothing. Whereas if you're posting online every 1 to 2 days, you get feedback in the comment section every single day. It's interesting feedback from intelligent people that have cool things to say. It's very socially rewarding. It's why so every author I've ever met, and pretty much anyone who's been born in my generation or later, has written fanfic and posted online, and most of them say it is far more fulfilling than actually writing novels.
Totally makes sense to me.
Because we all have these souls that are just screaming for affirmation, please somebody like what I'm doing, and you get that so much online, especially when you're writing Marvel fanfic or Harry Potter fanfic or something people want to read anyway.
I think that, there's probably the selfish motivation, but also we're social animals, and it's hard to get the motivation to keep doing a thing yourself.
There's also the commitment and consistency of like,
that
I said I would do this
pressure.
5 times a week. Yeah, you're peer pressuring, you're committing to being peer pressured.
Right.
And I think that's a great motivator. The only fan fiction I can think of that I've read of yours is the Cain and Abel story.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so
is that a fan fiction?
I mean that
Bible
if I squinted, that's yeah.
I mean, Amazing Man is
Chuck Tingle fan.
Amazing Man 2 is Chuck Tingle fan fiction.
Homage.
Host is basically Evangelion fan fiction.
Oh, I didn't read that.
I mean, because you hide you hide the details, and you're like, see, no, this is an original world, but no,
unless you call it
fan
Harry
fiction.
Potter and the Methods of Rationality, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If he had just made up, could you imagine like the he just makes up like he changes the names of everybody, but it's the exact same story, except
that's apparently how 50 Shades of Grey came to be.
Yeah.
It was a Twilight fanfic
called Masters of the Universe. Yeah.
And she just changed the names of all the characters and changed some details and published it as its own original book.
And then chopped out the vampire business, and then boom.
Yeah. Huh. But I think that the fanfic had, I mean, I don't know, I haven't read I haven't read the fanfic, the original fanfic. I haven't, and I tried to read 50 Shades of Grey, and I couldn't do it. It was so bad.
The original fanfic is just as bad.
It was. I was listening to the audiobook when I
but
was.
it's got Edward and Bella, so heart eyes.
I guess. I'm more of a Team Jacob. No, I'm not. I didn't like either of them. She shouldn't date either of them.
I mean, pretty much everything.
They're both like crazy, controlling weirdos.
You know what? We have now gotten onto a digression of a digression. So
Hey, we caught it though. All right,
yes, we did.
let's pull out.
Back to
Quick emergency evacuation.
So, double illusion of transparency.
Yes, moving on.
What else was?
Oh no, that was basically it for the double illusion, right? Unless anyone else has something.
I had and have much left to learn about explaining, but that's how it all began. I like it. He's a fun writer. Like we mention that every fifth episode or something, but I also just dig his writing style. Like the content's great too, but there's some writing that engages me really well.
He's probably doing important Miri stuff and shouldn't write another like Methods of Rationality length fiction, but if he wanted to, I would, occasionally he'll still write small things on Tumblr, and I love his writing.
People need personal lives too.
Yeah.
You can do the writing, in the time that you're not doing.
I don't want to take him away from important AI research for my own, like...
Yeah, but if you stick him on important AI research for all his waking hours, he's going to burn out and die.
Yeah.
Couple weeks ago on the HPMR subreddit, someone cross-posted to some other subreddit, and it was a fun rationalist short story. And someone's like, "That's great, but what was this?" They're like, "Check the top comment of the thread," or it was a link to a tweet. Yutkowski wrote that under a pseudonym to see if he was identifiable by his writing style,
and he wasn't.
I didn't catch the result of that. Well, that's so people are thinking that because he's writing something under a pseudonym now, right? Isn't there a plausible candidate for that?
Huh. Yeah, there's some rumors as to what it is that he's writing, but given that it was like 2 years that this fanfic was out, and then he finally came out and said, "This is the short story that I wrote under a pseudonym. I am greatly updating away from people being able to identify authors by their writing style, because I was sure people would be able to identify this in moments, and not one person even suggested it might be me."
I don't know if I could do that.
Strikes me as wild, because I feel like he has such a distinct voice.
Me too, but then I'm thinking of Worth the Candle. If you told me Eliezer wrote it, I would have believed you. And if you told me that Alexander Wales wrote Methods of Rationality, I'd have believed you. Like,
okay.
they feel so, like, they like all the buttons that hit for me, they all hit the same button.
Yeah, okay.
Well, one of the most
good writers can write in different voices.
They can, but one of the most prolific writers of our lifetimes, who actually wrote his own stuff, because don't. Anyways, is Stephen King. And for a long time, he published under Richard Bachman, partly because publishers had this thing where they just didn't want to publish too many books by the same author in a year. They were like, "Oh no, audiences will get burnt out on them." And turns out that's completely fucking wrong.
That is nonsense.
Yeah.
Look at how many James Patterson, speaking of people who don't write their own things.
I was about to say, he's one of the dudes. But moving away from douchebags.
You can just... You keep hemming and hawing. So James Patterson doesn't write his own books?
A lot of them he doesn't know. He just comes up with an outline, and then he's like, "Go to work typing monkeys, and I will take all the fame and most of the money."
When I worked at a library for
and I mean,
every time we got there's a monthly budget for here's the new books that sorry, backing up, that was totally incoherent. You get a monthly budget, and then you purchase new books, and you have to sort of look at the statistics of your circulation to see, okay, who do people want to see? And it's all, everybody wants the new James Patterson book, and there's like a wait list of people before the book's even out to put it on hold. But I just remember unboxing our book deliveries and having to catalog and put stickers on all of them and stuff, and just 3 James Patterson books. Does he write 3 books a month? What the hell?
Yeah.
And then trying to read some of them and being like, man, there was a series of his that I started, and it started really good, but you could just straight up tell the point where James Patterson's like, all right, I got to write my other 6 series that I'm working on, so here you go, ghostwriter, you finish this, because it just suddenly, characters were completely out of character, whole plot threads were dropped, one character developed a superpower that was never mentioned again.
Well, we can't let any discussion of books and authors go by without me mentioning Wheel of Time.
Yes.
The last 3 of which were written by Brandon Sanderson.
It was the last 3.
It was the last book, but he broke it into 3 books.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was a very I don't even know if he was aiming for Jordan style voice or not, because it was distinctly different.
Huh.
Okay.
It wasn't worse, it was just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it throw you off, or were you fine with it?
I knew it was a different author.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
But basically, every single author who has been revealed to be writing under a pseudonym, it's never been because someone figured it out. It's always been a leak by a publisher or someone who knew them.
So you're
J.K.
saying
Rowling wrote some adult books that were just apparently god awful.
I mean, they were fine,
But she published
they weren't
them under-
god-awful, but they were just the same thing. As
I
everything
heard
else.
some bad things about them, but
Okay.
shrug. But she published them under, what the heck was it? Some dude pseudonym,
Yeah.
because like they were like, oh, what if I think she actually was like, I'm gonna like see if I publish this and like see if my writing's actually good,
Right,
or
right.
if people are just like, oh, that's the Harry Potter person, you gotta read that. And like
It's the second one.
nobody likes their adult books, so I feel like that's kind of a bummer for
I would
her.
have just published it like under like LM Bowling or something instead of JK Rowling. Like, make it kind of obvious.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're that successful, like just go forth and mess around and do whatever you want. If people don't like your other stuff, cool. I'm gonna ride my laurels on Harry Potter for generations to come. So
I don't like J.K. Rowling as a person, but I do appreciate, or I have to respect the like, let me test if I'm a good writer.
Yeah.
Also,
or if I happened upon like a formula people like, and now just attaching my name to anything will make it popular.
I mean, it's the latter because a lot of people who really are good writers will never get famous. I mean, there's a huge amount of luck in it. So.
Oh yeah, fame
yeah,
is
like
pretty random.
Eneasz Brodsky, for example.
Who has written all of one book? I mean, come on.
Several short stories.
Some-
Yeah, short stories. No one reads short stories.
And never is that has yet to be proved. So
what?
you said never get popular.
Oh,
So,
right.
Yeah,
okay.
we'll have to
Like,
wait
you're
another
still
century
writing,
before we
Well,
determine whether
I
or
will
not.
have more news about this at the end of the episode, but I am actually going to be starting on my next novel here in a month or two.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So we just did fist bumps. Y'all had to hear them. All right. So I was trying to think of some way to tie this into we don't know what we don't know, but no one knows what science doesn't know is the
Yeah.
next post.
I think let's just go into it.
Didn't we talk about this one before at some point?
Remember having done so?
A lot of these
Seems
have come
vaguely
up.
familiar. Yeah. It may have just come up in conversation.
Well, can I read the beginning, because I actually really liked his example.
Sure.
At a family party some years ago, one of my uncles remarked on how little science really knows. For example, we still have no idea how gravity works, why things fall down. Actually, we do know how gravity works, I said. My father, a PhD physicist, was also present, but he wasn't even touching this one. And I just have to say, that's the wisdom that you have with age, I guess. We do, said my uncle. Yes, I said. Gravity is the curvature of space-time. At this point, I'd still swallowed Feynman's line about, and this is a link, being able to explain physics to one's grandmother. It links back to the
The last
double
post.
illusion of transparency, where it said that he had mistakenly at one point believed that you should be able to explain a complex thing to your grandmother.
Well, I believe Feynman's line was you don't truly understand something until you understand it well enough to explain it to your grandmother.
Something like that. But he's like, I used to think that this is what he's saying here. So I continued, you could say that Earth goes around the sun in a straight line. Imagine a curve that shows both space and time, so that a straight line shows steady movement and a curved line shows acceleration. Then curve the graph paper itself. When you try to draw a straight line on a curved paper, you get what looks like acceleration. And then the uncle was just like, what are you talking about? But I loved that. That was like a really good visual representation of gravity, I thought. But then again, I also have prerequisite knowledge of I guess the uncle didn't, so he was just like, what the hell are you talking about? Why are you folding graph paper?
Yeah. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
So it goes on to say, and then I have to like sort of do my annoyed thing about Eliezer, I think assuming too much, going too far in the direction of evopsych.
Okay.
When was the last time in history when it was possible for a single human to know the knowledge of the most advanced civilization? I've seen various estimates for this, usually in the form of polymaths nominated for the position of last person to know everything. One plausible candidate is Leonardo da Vinci, who died in 1519, shortly after the printing press began to become popular, and shortly before Copernicus inaugurated the scientific revolution.
Okay.
But in the ancestral environment, it was possible to know everything, and that's why I was just like, oh, come on. Da Vinci didn't know everything. Like, they had higher math in the Middle East that he probably didn't know about, and there was like advanced medicine and surgery in China and India that he probably didn't know about, just because so that's my nitpick about that. And then my nitpick about, well, in the ancestral environment there were like bands of 200 people and everybody could know everything, and I was like, bullshit. No, like, flint napping is actually kind of difficult. People specialized since we like first started understanding things and like developing skills. Which I'm gonna like end my rant and then like not bring it up again about that, but just I get what he's saying. I think it's just overly simplistic, and also it's kind of treating ancestral people as dumb. They were as intelligent as us.
I do think you have a good point that probably there was already way too much knowledge for anyone to know everything, even before history became a thing that was recorded. I kind of take his point more that if anyone back in ancestral lands, if anyone knew how to do something, then everyone at least knew that someone knew it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if there was the knowledge of how
Could
to
be
map rocks into arrowheads, then you may not have it yourself, but you know that this is something that the human race knows. And like his example was that there were people in the human race that were alive that knew how gravity worked, but his uncle literally thought that nobody alive knew yet, and that, you know, was news to his uncle. And that is basically the point of the post, that you don't know what someone somewhere might know, because no one can know everything that, not just know everything, but know everything that is known.
Right. So it'd be one thing for me to understand everything in the world. I'd have to be very, very old or have a godlike brain, right? It would be it would still be a monumental task and still unattainable, but much less unattainable for me just to know all the things that are known. I've got a big list in my head of all the facts, and not the explanations, just all the knowledge, right?
It's amazing to this day, and by to this day I mean to last week when I last saw this happen. There's still people getting hung up on the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics. And I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah.
many worlds has been around for so long, and you're still hung up on this observer effect thing.
He also brought up the movie What the Bleep Do We Know, which I have had the displeasure of watching.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's as bad as everyone says, right?
It's complete
You've
woo.
seen it too?
It's basically Deepak Chopra explains quantum physics, where he's just like, oh, you know, we don't understand why light, so light is a particle and a wave, and that means that you can basically do anything by believing in it hard enough. And you're like, wait, what?
That's obviously what it means.
Well, you know, the observer effect means that you have to observe something in order for it to have happened and
So
the
you can
waveform
just
to collapse.
observe yourself.
So the power of observation must be magic. Yeah, no, that's not what that means. If anybody thinks that,
I'm
like,
going to observe myself getting younger
nobody
right now.
who's listening to this thinks that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they do.
He does have the quote in here, which is one of his quotes. I didn't realize it was in this post, but I often use it. He says, if we are ignorant about a phenomenon, that is a fact about our state of mind, not a fact about the phenomenon itself, which is a great quote. Maybe he said the same thing in different posts too, because I know I've brought it up before.
I think that was him just, calling back to an earlier sequence where he said that. But, like, I like the reiterations. All this stuff ties in different ways. Also, I just want to read one more paragraph because it's hilarious. My uncle's not an isolated phenomenon. I've met people who think that science knows nothing about the brain, and that thought is a complete mystery to us. My favorite was the fellow who confidently asserted that neuroscience had been unable to assign any function, in scare quotes, like, to the cerebral cortex, at which point I just burst out laughing because the cerebral cortex is the majority of the brain. It's like the things that aren't the hippocampus and the amygdala. I think basically it's like, it's the whole new part of the brain that, like, humans use to do
all the human
thinking.
stuff.
As Tom McCabe put it, anyone who claims the brain is a total mystery should be slapped upside the head with the MIT Encyclopedia of Cognitive Sciences. All 1,096 pages of it. And I was just like, I've felt that. I feel that so hard. That's a mood. I've heard the same thing before about, well, science doesn't really understand the brain. And I was like, can I please put my consumer grade EEG on you and then show you your brainwaves and then hit you with them somehow? Because, like, we know things. We don't know all of the things, but, like, it's not a mystery. We know tons of shit about the brain. Shut up.
He does, again, have the inspirational stuff near the bottom, where he says, today, the absence of knowledge is a fragile and temporary condition, like the darkness in a closet whose door happens to be shut. A single thought can shatter the absence of thought. Every scientific discovery ever made destroyed an ancient absence of knowledge dating back to the dawn of time.
And then no one knows what 6 billion people don't know today, and still less does know what 7 billion people will know tomorrow, which made me think, wait, was it around 6 billion people when he wrote this?
It was.
The date was 2007, so I looked it up because I was like, what are we at, 7 point something? I looked it up, 7.9.
Yeah, I was
we're
about
almost
to say we're
8.
almost at 8. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
In like 15 years.
I guess, like, boo overpopulation problems, but fuck yeah, like, science will solve those, and we're gonna go colonize the stars, goddammit.
I mean, so far we haven't had mass starvation because
of science.
Exactly.
And also, fuck your organic food. Unrelated topic that I could rant about, but
I don't know why you were looking at me specifically when
Oh
you
no,
said
I wasn't trying
that.
to.
No, I know you weren't.
Okay.
I don't even know where you were looking because I was looking down. But
I was actually looking in your direction. But
Aha!
I wasn't aiming it at you. I was just like, you're both sitting to my right,
yeah.
and I'm talking to the two of you.
Well, that was our sequences for the day.
Yeah. Did you have more to say, Steve?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
You had an expression like,
I was holding back like
Like
my
you're thinking
one
about
kind
something?
of like joke on organic food, which like they always say like pesticide free, which I just read as like full of bugs.
it is though. I one time I got like some cilantro, though I forgot, or I don't know. I didn't pay attention to the fact that it was organic cilantro,
Oh no.
and it fucking wilted immediately and was full of bugs. And I was like,
Uh,
"Good job, organic food."
I tend to not buy organic whenever I can avoid it, mainly just so I don't encourage those people.
It's more expensive and it's worse quality food.
Also,
well,
this is a
sometimes.
digression on a digression.
But
It
more power to people who want
is.
to buy them. So not shitting on it. It's
No,
If you've
consumer
got too
choice.
bad.
much money and it makes you feel good, we have a $20,000 couch we can sell you.
Uh-huh.
Well, no, our
If
couch is
only.
going to be $30,000, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
It's that one. It's a relic.
that's right.
Yeah.
It has been sat on by official rationalist butts. So
Yeah.
I'm suddenly confused about where the conversation went.
It went over there. All right. So
Okay.
yeah, do we have sequence post lines up for next episode?
we do. Do you already have them written down, or should I read them?
Read them.
Okay, so I think we should do 3 again because they.
These are. Oh, are you sure? Because individual IQ differences is one that we can talk about, or at least.
Well, because then the next 2 are motivated stopping and motivated continuation,
Okay.
which kind of go right hand.
I'm good with either. Whatever y'all want to do.
Stephen,
We can handle 3.
okay.
Yeah, growth mindset.
And if we spend so much time on one that we have to stop, then we can just push the other 2 off to the.
Deal.
Okay,
This is
so
true.
possibly the only one we're doing next week is why are individual IQ differences okay? But we might do 3, in which case we will also do motivated stopping and motivated continuation, which is one post, and a case study of motivated continuation.